For a third of the NBA's teams, this season is already over. For those 9 or 10 squads, the prospects of mere play-in contention, let alone real playoff hopes, faded long ago. But it's never too early for those losers to start thinking about next year. And 3 teams in particular appear capable of bouncing back quickly. Here's why Memphis, San Antonio, and Toronto could be 3 of the league's most improved teams a year from now. The Grizzlies are the most obvious candidate for improvement, due largely to the fact that the real Grizzlies rarely took to court this season. Memphis' 2023-2024 campaign may as well have been the basketball remake of The Replacements.
Pain heals. Chicks dig scars. Glory lasts forever.
Between Ja Morant's suspension and subsequent shoulder injury, Steven Adams being sidelined just days before the season tipped off, and an injury list that seemed to grow exponentially every week, Memphis never stood a chance. 17 different Grizzlies have spent time on the injury list this season. In terms of man games lost due to injury, the gap between Memphis' total and the second most injured team is larger than the gap between the second and 29th most injured team. The nightly lineup turnover understandably left the Grizzlies as a cellar dweller, but what was largely a season from hell could prove to be a blessing in disguise for the franchise. While the 2024 draft class is purported to be the weakest in over a decade, it's still a significant development when a team that's otherwise ready to win lands a pick as high as the Grizzlies should this year. And make no mistake, the Grizzlies are ready to win when healthy, as we were reminded when the team went 6-3 with Ja in the lineup, with wins over the Pelicans, Pacers, and Lakers. However, in the meantime, with more responsibility thrust onto his shoulders in Morant's absence, Desmond Bane grew as an overall offensive player, and all of the opportunity provided by an injury-ravaged season cleared the path for Vince Williams Jr. to emerge as Memphis' 3-and-D wing of the future. Not to mention, a healthy Marcus Smart will give Memphis a Defensive Player of the Year caliber guard to go along with their Defensive Player of the Year caliber anchor in Jaren Jackson Jr. Head coach Taylor Jenkins has always gotten more out of his Grizzlies rosters than the sum of their parts. They'll miss the since-traded Adams, but with their franchise player back in the fold and a more complete roster around Ja than ever before, assuming even average health, look for the Grizzlies to go from 50 losses to 50-plus wins.
If you win, you win. If you lose, you still win. There's no way you can lose.
The rapid rise coming in San Antonio can be succinctly explained by the presence of their 7'4" unicorn. Though the term gets tossed around too loosely these days, Victor Wembanyama is truly a generational talent who can change the trajectory of not just his team, but the league itself. The only thing scarier than Wemby's combination of size and skill is how quickly he improved over the course of his rookie season. By this time next year, I suspect we'll be talking about a 21-year-old All-Star who's squarely in both the All-NBA and Defensive Player of the Year conversation. And quite frankly, players of that caliber are often too good for their teams to ever be that bad. After allowing Jeremy Sohan to spread his wings this season, the Spurs will have to figure out their guard situation going forward. But with any semblance of decent point guard play, Wemby should have San Antonio in the 2025 playoff race. Heck, in a decent sample with Wembanyama and Trey Jones sharing the court this season, a Spurs team on pace for 64 losses has comfortably won its minutes. And don't forget that San Antonio owns 13 first-rounders, plus swap rights with Atlanta and Boston in 2026 and 2028 over the next 7 drafts. So they have the draft capital and trade equity to find Wemby a co-star or two.
Be afraid. Be very afraid.
Out east, the Raptors don't have quite the promise of the contending-level Grizzlies or Wemby-led Spurs. But don't sleep on Canada's team ascending back to relevance next season after missing the playoffs for the 3rd time in 4 years. It begins, of course, with Scottie Barnes, who proved that his sophomore slump was the mirage, not his Rookie of the Year performance. While Barnes isn't the traditional scoring star we often envision when it comes to franchise players, the 22-year-old has an all-around game that's beyond his years. The only players who've matched Barnes' 2023-24 stat line in a single season are Larry Bird, Kevin Garnett, LeBron James, and Giannis Antetokounmpo this year. But those Hall of Famers did it between their age 26 and age 37 seasons.
He's the definition of a prodigy.
A more assertive offensive player this season, with improved shooting range and all defensive upside, Barnes can be the pillar of a competitive team as soon as next year, but he needs help and a better fitting squad around him. Though the Raptors paid the price for waiting too long to resolve the Pascal Siakam situation, that aforementioned squad is now taking shape. Emmanuel Quickley's combination of speed, movement shooting, and creation is the perfect complement to Barnes' game. Expect IQ to be in the most improved player discussion a year from now. Meanwhile, RJ Barrett looks rejuvenated as a Raptor, with the hometown kid an improved playmaker and more efficient scorer who plays within the flow of the offense. Grady Dick's combination of shooting and size will also be a boon for Barnes' Raptors going forward. And though Darko Rajakovic has had to navigate a tumultuous first season on the job, his .5 offense and movement-heavy vision is slowly coming into focus. The Raptors won't be contenders next season, but even just adding quality depth around their new core this summer should see Toronto back in the postseason mix.
Thanks for watching. If you liked this video and want to see more content like this, be sure to hit that subscribe button.